what's up YouTube? Welcome to today's video, and this is gonna be pretty much a long awaited build update for Venom Gyre. Now I know a lot of people have been wondering, where do you actually take your build after you get most of the baseline gear? I'm gonna go over my thought process about what I actually did, because this character finally reached the level 100. I did cheat a little bit in the last like 50 or 60% of the level by doing some 5 ways. You can see I am doing the form because I have all of these Shaper Guardian maps. But overall, the character, I'm pretty satisfied with its damage and what it can do. And I just wanted to share some of the tech that I ended up switching out, because I did do quite a few things that I originally did not plan to do at the start of the league. Now, like I said, I changed up the build drastically to end up using Lethal Pride, 2 large clusters, and Thread of Hope. Now, this is pretty much what was supposed to be at the start, but usually getting 2 large clusters is kind of hard to do. But as you see, this is the whole tree. I'm going to go over the whole tree and what exactly I chose. Now, the build is really good at mapping, and I do think its main strength is definitely speed farming Sanctums and running through maps as fast as possible to get as many sanctified relics as fast as possible. And I think I've probably gotten like upwards of, I don't know, 150 sanctified relics or so now. And this is the best one I've gotten so far. It's an int stacking relic. I still haven't gotten the deck stacking relic or the strength stacking relic, and I don't really want to make an int stacker at the moment. Now, the main thing I think I changed is I decided to swap out a Secrets of Suffering. And this is more of a thing because of Sanctum, because of how bad Secrets of Suffering is for Sanctum, in my opinion, purely because Freeze and Chill are just that overpowered. And a lot of people always ask me, can I ever swap out of the Berserk setup? And the answer is that Perma Berserk is too good to pass up. It's a huge damage reduction. If we actually take off Berserk right now, you'll see our EHP goes down a lot. And our damage also pretty much almost gets cut in half, right? And if you don't play with the Berserk setup, you are not going to have Berserk up that much. And that's just something that you're going to have to live with. And the Berserk setup is just the best, bar none. Now, there is a potential way to get rid of Vol's Vision, but it's going to be very, very expensive. So first off, we have to ask ourselves, why are we swapping out of Secrets of Suffering? Now, like I said before, it is pretty much because of how overpowered Freeze and Chill is in the Sanctum. You could technically run Summon Skitter bots. However, that doesn't feel as good as having a really high effects Freeze and Chill on the mobs. And after I swapped out of Secrets of Suffering, it felt a lot better. And you also get the sweet shatter sound. Now, a lot of people know if you play with Secrets of Suffering, you have no shattering sound when you freeze the mobs. And that's kind of shitty. But basically, when you do the Sanctum, you want to have the ability to freeze and chill mobs as much as possible. This allows the guards to die before they can actually get any sort of animation off. It also helps on the boss to lower their action speed. And if you have any problems doing Venom Gyre in the Sanctum, taking off Secrets of Suffering and finding a way to cap out your crit to 100% is probably one of the biggest benefits you could possibly have. Now, also, you have more on-demand damage as you do not have to rely on Brittle. Now, for people who don't really know how Brittle works, is you have to attack the mob and then inflict the cold ailment. Now, this sometimes feels really, really bad to do because you have a period of ramp where you have to attack the mob with low crit chance in order to have Brittle on the mob so that you can have high crit chance later on. And that means that your burst damage up front is a lot lower. And for Sanctum, that's not really a good thing. So if you do no Secrets of Suffering, you will have 100% crit chance as soon as you attack the boss, as long as you have brittle ground from your boots on top of the boss. Now, we are able to still cap out our crit chance without Brittle with Secrets of Suffering because of medium clusters. The Brittle boot implicit is still 2% base crit, and we're able to get power charges from Wind Up. So if we can see here, we are using these medium clusters, Pressure Points, Quick Getaway, and these are crit chance clusters. So these are 30% increased critical strike chance, and your critical strike chance have a 5% chance to deal double damage. And right here is attack and cast speed, move speed if you dealt a crit recently, and more critical strike chance. So you can see these clusters help us a lot in capping out our crit. And then Wind Up gives us 10% chance to gain a power charge on non-critical strike with a claw or dagger. And since we attack so many times and our crit is not really 100% all the time, we're able to get the power charges up pretty easily. And this does allow us to reach 100% crit. And even if you don't have the brittle boots, the enemy's not on the brittle ground, you'll see that it's still around 84% chance to crit. And that is a lot of damage. So overall, we switch out of Secrets of Suffering because it's better for Sanctum. And it's easy to cap 100% crit chance. Oh, and I'm also using a Watcher's Eye with Wrath. Now this thing right here, as you can see, gives us 83% critical strike chance. So we're able to stack some crit, and this helps us out a lot. Now, in terms of this build, I did tech in some unique jewels that weren't really included. Now, lastly, we had Mantra of Flames, but sadly, Mantra of Flames is not in the game anymore. Now, for anyone who's played Lightning Strike in the past, you know that this Thread of Hope slot is really overpowered. It allows you to get Forces of Nature, which is 10% pen. It allows you to get One with Nature or Quick Step. Allows you to get Primeval Force, which is like 50% elemental damage. And lastly, you can get Split Shot, which gives us a 50% chance for additional projectile when forking. And before, for Lightning Strike, we used to be able to get +2 Pierce, but we go for Split Shot right here. So overall, it's a pretty point-efficient node. You do lose -10 all res, which is kind of annoying. Now, Lethal Pride, since we put the Thread of Hope in the Ranger slot, we have to put the Lethal Pride up here. And luckily for us, there is a Lethal Pride seed. I'm not really sure how much this is. I bought mine, I think, for 15 Divines. So this Lethal Pride seed is just super crazy because it gives us 5% double damage here, 5% double damage here, 5% double damage there, and 5% double damage. So it's 20% double damage on this Lethal Pride. And then we're also able to get a power charge, and it also gives us +20 strength, which helps us out for Omni a lot. So overall, I do think that this is the most point efficient and best use of the Lethal Pride, and it's only 3 extra points to get that jewel slot. Now for the Watcher's Eye, I did decide I'm going to be running Precision Aura too. Now the reason we run Precision Aura is it unlocks one of the best Watcher's Eye mods for us, which is 43% increased attack damage. I think when I put it into PoB, it's around like 8% damage increase just from that one mod alone. And I also get 83% crit chance to cap out our crit chance. And also we have gain 26 life per enemy hit while affected by Vitality, which helps us out with our leech a little bit. And this helps us out with Progenesis Flask. Now, on the topic of Progenesis Flask, I do think one of the biggest changes in this league is the fact that there are some really strong unique flasks that makes it so that you can kind of tailor your experience based on what you have and what your weaknesses are. So for me, anyone who knows this build, you can see the life pool. There's no use trying to hide it. The life pool is kind of low. You're at 3,900 or 4K life, maybe 4.5K if you're not using Brass Dome. But this life pool is kind of low. We do have decent amounts of defenses in terms of the max res. But the big problem is that this life pool is low. We're not really close to that many life nodes. If we were to take all of the life nodes along this area, you could technically go towards here, but that's a lot of points. So Progenesis Flask is delaying 25% of life loss from damage taken over 4 seconds instead. And since we have really good leech with life gain on hit, this life loss from damage taken over time doesn't really do anything to us. So what this effectively does is it increases our life pool by 25%. So that 3,900 life pool can be 3,900 times 1.25. And not to mention, it's also an Amethyst Flask, meaning that we can, get our chaos res up a little bit. And this flask also lasts a very, very long duration because it has percent increased duration. So it can go up to I think 8.1 seconds, which is pretty long. Now, next up, we have Dying Sun. Dying Sun does help out with the clear a lot. And I'm also using Oriath's End. Now, Oriath's End is an interesting item. It's not really that useful if you're not doing super juice maps, purely because we have enough projectiles to do everything to kill all the mobs. However, because this build has no sort of area damage, when we don't have Oriath's End and we're doing a league mechanic that has a lot of mobs in it or very dense mob density, Venom Gyre will kind of have a little bit of a problem with clearing it, unlike builds like Blade Vortex. So this Explode helps out a lot. Now, I think one of the best examples, if you do Blight, you'll notice that there's a lot of monsters that suddenly spawn, and Venom Gyre can't really take care of that. But with Oriath's End and you having a little bit of Explode, it makes it a complete breeze. And this explosion damage also gets affected by Omni, which helps out a lot. Now, Mage Blood is another option. Now, if you run Mage Blood, you could technically run a 3 Flask Mage Blood setup, but 4 Flask is probably what I would go for. So I would probably go for like Progenesis and then like 4 Utility Flasks. Now, a nice part about Mage Blood is it allows you to get more attack speed. So this thing could be like 100%, 70% increased effect with increased effect. So it's like 100% increased effect of 17% attack speed. You can also get some extra life regen, which may allow us to drop Vol's Vision. So there's a lot of different options that we can go for that allows us to use Mage Blood. Mage Blood does have a lot more consistency because your flasks are always up. And you could also technically use a new Onslaught flask, which everyone's using because Onslaught now gets affected by increased buff effect. Now, overall, for my items, I never ended up replacing the unique Berserk setup because Comb Spirit with high uptime on Berserk is literally just too good. You could technically drop Vol's Vision if you got a Blizzard Crown with life regen roll, and then you also got a Mage Blood utility flask with life regen, and that should get you around like 300 life regen or so, and that does kind of cancel out the Vol's Vision. And Blizzard Crown is a lot of damage because it is a lot of flat cold. Now, the rings I did swap over, so let's go over my gear real fast. So rings I'm using Onslaught on hit, and I also got this 25% chance to avoid ailments. This was pretty cheap overall. But I just bought this one because I wanted to really get ailment immunity. I think getting ailment immunity and getting crit immunity are really important in helping your character stay alive while mapping. So we have crit immunity on a brass dome. We have some max res, and we have a lot of armor on here. And then in terms of ailment immunity, I crafted this with an essence, and this was on a fracture base. I bought the fracture base for 1 divine. I spammed the essence mod until I got another T1 dex roll. And then I think I just used some Eldritch Chaos Orbs, and I was able to get this. And I rolled Brittle Ground on the boots, and then I used some Eater of World Implicits in order to get the ailment immunity. And if you add this all up, it's 25 plus 23 plus 32, which is 80%. And then we get 20% on the tree, so we have 100% ailment immunity. So we can see right here, 100% Ignite Avoidance. Now, this does mean that we can run a different Pantheon. So we no longer need to use Reduced Effective Shock. We can also use Soul of Lunaris. So it does allow us to try out a lot of different things. Now for the Berserk set, we still have these 2 items. They're not really replaceable. I should probably get a better pair of gloves that has a higher life roll. I'm sure it's pretty cheap. Now for this helmet, I did go with a Berserk buff effect. Now the reason we use Berserk buff effect is because it also increases our defenses. So Berserk gives us 20% damage reduction, and with the Berserk buff effect, we have 26% damage reduction, which is a pretty big deal. Now for the shield, this is pretty much a spell suppression shield, T1 attributes, and then a T1 life regen roll. And I did use a Redeemer's Exalted Orb to get percent elemental damage of attacks, and that does end up being more damage than a flat craft. Now, this pair, I think I bought this. I think this person crafted this item by spamming Scorn Essences, and I crafted this item by spamming Essences with attributes. Now, this Claw, I bought it, and I exalted on Critical Strike Chance and crafted on Hits Can't Be Evaded. I do think I should probably try to get a better Claw of 30% attack speed, but at this point, it's extremely, extremely difficult to make up the cold res, so I'm pretty much handicapped by this Claw because of the cold resist. Now, overall, we do see that we have 80%. Our Chaos Resist is a little bit low, but since I swapped out of doing the Exarch altars and I'm doing Eater of World altars, Chaos Resist doesn't really matter too much. And for the Formed farming, there's not really much Chaos damage. And Omniscience, it doesn't really matter what the roll is on Omniscience. But overall, that's my gear. And I'm still running these flasks. So there's a Diamond Flask of attack speed, Progenesis, Orias, and Dying Sun for some additional clear, and a Life Flask with Corrupted Blood immunity on it. And the tree. So like the main thing here is like these jewels I'm using with life, resist, and then also has some percent damage. So right here's another one with life, attack speed, multi, and then here's another one with double attack speed and some resist. So you can see I'm having some trouble finding resist, but I am a little bit overcapped. And resists are kind of an issue. And the main problem is I don't have enough Omni, and having to use a brass dome makes it so that we don't have the extra attributes or resist that we could potentially have on a rare chest. And my belt is overall pretty bad. You could definitely get a double implicit belt with percent attributes, but I think that costs like 25, 30 divines for the base. But right now, this belt actually has a dead suffix in the sense that I have stun duration. And I did mean to upgrade this belt, but just haven't really searched for a belt that's caught my eye so far. So you can see here, the gear is by no means perfect. And there are a lot of upgrades. You could technically swap over to a ring with +1 frenzy charge implicit or percent attribute implicit. You can also get better jewels of attack speed, crit strike multi, and percent life. So there's a lot of different ways to upgrade the character. Now this is a very fun build in min-max because every single piece of upgrades like a 5% damage increase, 10% damage increase. And as you buy more and more upgrades, you'll see that this number right here is the DPS is around 11 mil. And it's obviously a lot more than that. I haven't even got the alternate skill gem. So you can get anomalous, which makes it so that returning projectiles your returning projectiles do more damage, and divergent makes you get an extra chain. So there's a lot of different things you could do to optimize the character. Like I said, you could probably get this number. I think I've seen some top profiles around 20 to 30 million DPS. So running Mage Blood and replacing Vol's Vigil with Blizzard Crown is probably a huge damage increase. Running Bottle Faith for bossing could also be a huge damage increase. Both those will probably just get you like 20% damage already. Now this build is capable of doing Ubers. There are a lot of footage of people doing Uber Cyrus, Uber Maven, Uber's Eater. And it really just comes down to if you have enough damage or not. If you don't have enough damage, you need to use some life flasks to solve the life recovery issue. Especially since we don't have any life regeneration because we're using Comb Spirit. Now, ailment immunity and crit immunity, I feel like are ways to go if you want to map and not die. And make sure you have 100% spell suppress. And if you're doing Exarch altars, try to have positive chaos resist because Exarch altars have a lot of stuff that makes it so you take extra chaos damage, like Elemental has chaos damage. The boss can get that. And you'll find that a lot of times if you don't have like some sort of chaos resist, you'll pretty much just get one-shotted. Now, if you want to play a higher damage variant of Venom Gyre, and I do think that Deadeye Venom Gyre is more of a league start build. However, it can be min-maxed all the way to trivialize all content. But strength stacking Venom Gyre is a much higher damage variant currently, and it's probably around 5 times more damage. And potentially even more if you get the original Sin Ring. Now, hopefully this answers everyone's question about the build. And I did switch over to a 2 large cluster setup and dropped all of those points over here. But the tree is pretty compact. I do think that's pretty point efficient overall. And there are some decisions you can make. Like for instance, right here, I could definitely have bought a Fan of Blades wind-up cluster, but it was like 20 divines or so, and I didn't really want to spend the money. And getting a Mage Blood is technically a huge upgrade if you want that quality of life. But thanks for watching, everyone, and I hope this video has guided you through my thought process on my way to 100 on this character, and I hope this character has been treating you well. And one last thing for people who are wondering what Sanctified Relic I have an Intimidate Sanctified Relic. So when I link the PoB, you'll see that I have Intimidate checked because I have the Intimidate Sanctified Relic. But thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you find more Mirrors, Divines, and Mage Bloods than me, and see you next time. Bye!